Hi guys, sweaty Alex here, reporting to you on another unbelievable April day. I don't know what's going on with the weather in England at the moment. It seems too good to be true. It's been unbelievably nice and clear for weeks really. I noticed when I was doing a bit of web search, an interesting phrase popped up, and it was someone writing about how personality was impermanent. They were talking about the impermanence of personality, and I didn't read it, but it was a phrase that stuck in my mind, and I thought it would be an interesting point of conversation for today. The impermanence of personality. Now, I'm someone who has spent most of his life with a story that I tell about myself that defines how I behave and how I interact with other people and how I experience my reality. I have a story about myself. I have a story about who I am, what my personality is about, what my identity is about, and this has an extremely powerful effect on who I feel myself to be in any given moment. Now, I want to talk about this in a bit more depth because personality has tremendous hold on so many of us, because personality is effectively and I'm going to be sweating like a badger over here, so bear with me, but personality is something that creates an image in our own minds as to how we behave and who we are, and that of course will lead to all kinds of implications in terms of how we respond to the environment around us. So we might have a personality that says, I am shy, and when we have that personality vision in our own heads, that's going to define how we behave around other people, because we've got this personality that we have anointed ourselves with that says we're shy, and when we come across other people, we'll be viewing those people and those surroundings and those circumstances through the lens of that personality story. Now, here's the thing, and I've probably dropped this insight onto you guys a few different times in a few different ways, but the insight is, and this is really a truth, the truth is that our personality depends entirely on the thoughts that we have in the current moment, and that's it. The only thing that defines our personality, in quotes, which isn't even a real thing, personality is fleeting in the same way that thought is fleeting. So whatever thought we have about who we are in the very moment that we think it, so say for example, you're walking through town and a really hot girl comes along and you see her and you think about approaching, but then a thought comes to mind and says, I'm shy around women, especially in public. And that will define your personality in that moment. You will become shy, more hunched up, and you'll probably walk across to the other side of the road to avoid the interaction entirely. Your personality, the story you have about yourself, and the resulting behavior relies entirely on a fleeting thought in the moment. It doesn't rely on your past, because your past is ultimately a thought, and it doesn't rely on your genetics. Your genetics, I suppose, play a role in contributing to the result of your thinking, but ultimately it's all down to your thinking. You know, how you think defines how you feel and how you behave. Now, this has a lot of interesting implications, because it means that if our personalities are only determined by how we think and not by the surroundings outside, not by our circumstances, not by our pasts, they simply rely on how we think about ourselves in the moment. It means that our personalities can be defined as the extent to which we hold on to habitual thoughts about who we are. A personality is effectively a mesh of thoughts. It's the way we habitually think over and over again on certain topics. This is why we have we have personalities that seem real, that seem concrete, because of the way we hold thought in our minds over and over again. Habitual thought is creating a mesh of thoughts that defines a more prolonged illusion of personality, but ultimately it isn't real. So for example, you might habitually think that you are a shy person, or that you are an extroverted person, or anything, that you are very creative, or that you're talented, or that you're stupid, or that you're ugly. If you have those kinds of thoughts habitually repeating over and over in your mind, you're going to repeatedly respond to those thoughts. And when you respond repeatedly to the same kinds of thoughts, that is what's going to create your character. That is what's going to create your personality. You can see the implications of this, right? So if our habitual thoughts create our personalities, and if our personalities are directly influenced by one thought at a time, we are able to be free of our own personalities. We're able to transcend our own identities. And you, I'm sure, can relate to the idea, hello Josie, you can relate to the idea that your personality has been pretty constricting on your life. Identity and the thoughts we have about ourselves can be very limiting. If we say to ourselves, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, then we're going to be creating that reality. And of course, we want to be free, we want to be creative, we want to be our most resourceful, expressive, fun-loving, interesting selves, which we are. We have all of that beneath the thinking that is actually proving to be very unhelpful. So what we've got to do is start relinquishing our reliance on thoughts to define how we behave. And we need to start relinquishing, i.e. letting go of, the need to cling to habitual thoughts that come up. Habitual thoughts will come up through your mind like items on a conveyor belt, and they are basically just little flashes of memories. They're little suggestions that your mind puts forward that you can either respond to or you can let flow past. Here's the beauty of it. You don't need to respond, react, or cling to any thought that comes up. Thoughts will come and go. That's natural. That's part of the human condition. The cool thing is, though, if we have a thought that comes up and says, I'm useless or I'm ugly, it's going to create a feeling. There's always a flip side of feeling to a thought. And that feeling will create what feels like a personality. It'll feel like that's who you are, but it's not true. And the beauty is you can let go of those thoughts. You can let those thoughts float past. And in doing that, you are transcending identity. You're transcending personality, which is just a layer of shit that you pile on to what's really underneath, what's really in you, which is pure wisdom, pure creativity, pure amazement or potential amazement, and pure joy, really, and calm and peace. That's all there. That's all within you. And it's your story, it's your thought, it's your thinking that you lay on top of that innate intelligence, that innate creative wealth that obscures that innate intelligence and creates an unhelpful sense, or false sense, should I say, of personality. So that's really what I wanted to hint at in this video. I can't go into too much depth because obviously we only have a few minutes and I don't want to use up all your time for now, but there's a really exciting prospect for all of us in that if we find ourselves trapped, and we are trapped by any form of identity that we give ourselves, because an identity is ultimately limiting. If you think about it, any kind of identity, any kind of story we tell about who we are, what we're capable of doing, is limiting. And the cool thing is that all we need to do is realize that we limit ourselves by our thinking, and that our thoughts do not need to be followed, and we do not need to be a slave to our thoughts. And when we can get into that zone and let go to thoughts that come through, then we can start easing into who we really are. When people say, oh, just be yourself, that's what they really mean to say, is return to who you are at your core. Return to who you are beyond thought. Return to who you are beyond your stories. And it doesn't require anything of you. It requires you to do less rather than to do more. So when you feel that you're buying into your personality that is essentially an illusion, and you feel bad about it, you'll usually feel a negative response because you'll be like, oh no, I'm back in my personality. This is who I am, I suck. It's an indication that you're buying into your thinking too much, and it's time to let go, baby. It's time to just flow back into that wisdom and ease yourself back into good vibes, because they are there. You don't need to find them, they're there, they're underneath. And if I had one last piece of advice, the best thing I can give you is to just breathe. Breathing gets you out of those thoughts. Breathing gets you back to who you are. And that's really the truth that we're all kind of looking for. It's like, you're not going to find happiness and good feelings out there in the environment. You're going to find them when you realize the truth. Oh, there's a little bunny rabbit over there. Look at me, distracted as always. So I've gone over 10 minutes. I'm going to leave you there with that. Be aware of how you limit yourself, how we all limit ourselves with our identities. Identity is an illusion. Personality is an illusion. It is impermanent because our thoughts are impermanent. And yes, you'll have moments where these thoughts will come back, and that's fine, that's human, but they don't need to linger. They're just suggestions that your mind is giving you, signposts that you can choose to ignore. You can be your own person. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Greetings. Hang on a sec, my battery thing's come up. I hope this doesn't stop the video. But do subscribe if you like this, and I will see you in the next one.